Listen closely. You have been trained to look outward for answers towards success, approval, comfort, and recognition. From a young age, you were taught that more is the solution, more money, more validation, more achievement. Yet despite all this chasing, many still feel restless, empty, unfinished. This is not because you lack something, it is because you are looking in the wrong direction. The world convinces you that fulfillment is somewhere ahead of you, waiting to be earned. But fulfillment does not live in the future. It does not live in possessions, titles, or the opinions of others. Fulfillment lives within discipline, clarity, and self-mastery. When you depend on external things for inner peace, you become fragile. Take away comfort, and you collapse. Take away praise, and you doubt yourself. This is not strength. This is dependency. True strength is not loud. It is quiet, grounded, and unshakable. Look at your own life. How often do you avoid stillness? How often do you distract yourself because silence makes you uncomfortable? Discomfort is not the enemy. Discomfort is the doorway. When you sit with it, when you stop running, you begin to understand yourself. And understanding yourself is the foundation of freedom. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is devotion to your highest self. When you wake up early, train your body, sharpen your mind, and control your impulses, you are not restricting your life, you are reclaiming it. A disciplined mind does not chase every desire. It chooses what truly matters. You do not need to become someone else. You need to remove what is unnecessary. Remove excuses, remove comparison, remove the constant need to be entertained. What remains is clarity. What remains is strength. The mind, if left untrained, becomes a servant to fear and desire. But when trained, it becomes your greatest ally. You begin to respond instead of react. You begin to act with purpose instead of impulse. This is inner power. Stop waiting for motivation. Motivation is unreliable. Build structure. Build habits. Build a daily practice that strengthens your body, stills your mind, and sharpens your awareness. Do the work when no one is watching. Especially then, the outside world will never settle down for you. There will always be noise, chaos, and pressure. If your peace depends on conditions, you will never have peace. But when peace comes from within, the world loses its power over you. You are not here to consume life. You are here to cultivate yourself. When you do, confidence becomes natural. Purpose becomes clear. Fulfillment becomes your baseline, not a rare moment. So stop searching outside. Stop asking the world to complete you. Turn inward. Face yourself. Train yourself. Master yourself. This is your call to action. Choose one discipline today, physical, mental, or emotional, and commit to it daily. No excuses, no shortcuts. Show up even when it is hard, especially when it is hard, because every moment you choose discipline over distraction, you step closer to your true strength. From the moment you become aware of the world, you are conditioned to believe that what you need is somewhere outside of you. Happiness is presented as a reward. Peace is presented as something you earn. Confidence is presented as something others give you through recognition and approval. Slowly, without realizing it, your center shifts outward. You begin to measure your worth by outcomes, by attention, by comparison. This is how dependence is formed, not through weakness but through repetition. When the mind is trained to look outside for fulfillment, it becomes restless. Even when you achieve what you once wanted, the satisfaction fades quickly. The goalpost moves, the desire changes shape. What once felt essential suddenly feels insufficient. This cycle is not accidental. External things were never meant to provide lasting fullness. They are unstable by nature. People change, circumstances shift, success rises and falls. When your inner state depends on unstable things, your life becomes unstable. This dependence creates fear, fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of falling behind. You begin to protect what you have instead of strengthening who you are. Decisions are no longer guided by clarity, but by anxiety. You say yes when you should say no. You stay where you have outgrown. You chase validation because silence feels like invisibility. All of this drains energy, yet it feels normal because it is common. Looking outward also weakens self-trust. When answers are always external, intuition grows quiet. You hesitate, you overthink, you wait for permission. Over time, the mind forgets how to be still, how to observe, how to listen. Silence becomes uncomfortable because it forces you to face what distractions have been covering. This is why constant stimulation feels necessary. Noise replaces presence, activity replaces awareness. Inner fullness begins the moment you stop outsourcing your stability. This does not mean rejecting the world. It means no longer needing it to define you. When you learn to sit with yourself without reaching for escape, something shifts. You start to notice your patterns instead of being controlled by them. You recognize impulses without immediately obeying them. You observe emotions without becoming them. This is the beginning of inner independence. Strength grows inward before it shows outward. When your sense of self is rooted internally, praise no longer inflates you and criticism no longer breaks you. You can receive ailment. You can experience discomfort without panic. This does not make you passive, it makes you grounded. The world rewards those who are centered, not because they chase rewards but because they move with clarity. Their actions are deliberate, their words carry weight, their presence is calm. This calm is not personality, it is trained. It comes from repeated moments of choosing awareness over avoidance, responsibility over blame, discipline over indulgence. When fulfillment is internal, effort feels cleaner. You work without desperation. You improve without self-hatred. You pursue goals without attaching your identity to outcomes. This creates endurance. You can sustain effort without burning out because your energy is not leaking through comparison, jealousy, or constant seeking. The less you search outside, the more stable you become inside, and the more clearly you see what actually deserves your time, your focus, and your life. Discipline is often misunderstood because it is framed as restriction, as force, as a loss of freedom. Many resist it because they associate it with punishment or pressure. But the absence of discipline does not create freedom, it creates chaos. When there is no structure, impulses take control. When impulses lead, energy is scattered, time is wasted, potential is diluted. What feels like freedom in the moment slowly becomes regret. An undisciplined mind seeks comfort first and meaning later. It avoids effort, resists discomfort, and negotiates with weakness. It waits to feel ready before acting. But readiness rarely arrives on its own. Without discipline, life becomes reactive. Moods dictate actions. Circumstances dictate consistency. Progress becomes accidental instead of intentional. Discipline is not about doing more, it is about doing what matters, even when motivation is absent. Especially then, it is the ability to act according to principle rather than emotion. Emotions rise and fall, principles remain. When discipline is present, you no longer ask how you feel before deciding how you act. You act and your feelings follow. The body is the first training ground. When the body is neglected, the mind becomes weak. Physical training is not about appearance. It is about teaching yourself to stay present under strain, to breathe under pressure, to continue when the urge to stop appears. Each repetition strengthens more than muscle. It strengthens resolve. It builds evidence that discomfort can be endured without damage. This evidence transfers into every area of life. The mind must also be trained. An untrained mind jumps from thought to thought, pulled by fear, desire, and distraction. Discipline brings order. It creates space between stimulus and response. In that space, choice exists. You begin to notice how often the mind exaggerates threats, invents excuses, and seeks easy exits. With discipline, you stop believing every thought. You observe them. You select which ones deserve action. Consistency matters more than intensity. Grand efforts followed by long pauses create illusion, not transformation. Discipline is quiet and repetitive. It is showing up when progress is invisible. It is repeating basic actions until they shape identity. Over time, discipline stops feeling forced and starts feeling natural. What once required effort becomes your standard. Without discipline, confidence is unstable. It depends on recent success. With discipline, confidence is earned daily through action. You trust yourself because you keep promises to yourself. This self-trust is rare and powerful. It removes the need to prove anything to anyone. You know what you can endure because you have endured it before. Discipline also simplifies life. Decisions become fewer. Excuses lose their grip. You stop negotiating with yourself. There is a time to train, and you train. There is a time to rest, and you rest. This clarity reduces mental noise. Energy that was once spent resisting effort becomes available for growth. True discipline is not rigid. It is adaptable but uncompromising in direction. The path may change, but the commitment remains. It is devotion to becoming reliable in your own eyes. When discipline becomes part of who you are, progress is no longer something you chase. It becomes something that follows you quietly, steadily, without announcement. The untrained mind lives in constant reaction. A comment triggers anger. A delay creates frustration. An unexpected obstacle produces doubt. None of these reactions are chosen. They happen automatically. This is not because the situations are overwhelming, but because awareness is absent. When awareness is weak, the mind confuses impulse with truth and emotion with instruction. Training the mind begins by noticing this pattern instead of judging it. Most people are controlled by their thoughts without realizing it. A thought appears and it is immediately believed. I am not ready. This is too hard. I am not ready. This is too hard. I will fail. These thoughts feel convincing because they repeat often, not because they are accurate. Without training, the mind does not question itself. It assumes authority over behavior. Awareness challenges that authority by creating distance. You begin to see thoughts as events, not commands. Stillness is where this training starts. When external noise is removed, internal noise becomes obvious. This is why silence feels uncomfortable at first. The mind rushes to fill the space with memories, worries, plans, and fantasies. Many avoid stillness because it exposes restlessness. But restlessness is not a flaw, it is a signal. It shows how scattered attention has become. Sitting with it is the first act of discipline for the mind. Breath becomes an anchor, not as a technique to escape thought, but as a reference point. Each time attention wanders and is gently returned, awareness strengthens. This return is the training, not the absence of thought, but the ability to notice and redirect. Over time, this builds stability. You stop being dragged by every mental impulse. You begin to choose where attention rests. With awareness comes the ability to pause. That pause changes everything. When emotion arises, there is space before reaction. In that space, you can decide whether to speak or remain silent, whether to act or wait, whether to escalate or let go. This is self-mastery in its simplest form, not control through force, but clarity through observation. An aware mind sees patterns. It recognizes triggers before they take over. It notices the moment when discipline weakens and distraction offers an escape. This noticing does not require suppression. It requires honesty. You see the urge, you feel it, and you do not immediately obey it. Each time you do this, awareness becomes sharper. The mind learns that not every desire must be satisfied. Awareness also reveals how often energy is wasted on imagined futures and rehearsed conflicts. The mind travels ahead, creating problems that do not yet exist. Training brings attention back to what is real and immediate. Action becomes grounded. Effort becomes efficient. Anxiety loses strength because it feeds on mental projection. As awareness deepens, presence becomes natural. You listen more fully. You move with intention. You respond instead of react. This presence influences others without effort. Calm becomes contagious. Authority emerges not from dominance, but from stability. An untrained mind seeks stimulation. A trained mind seeks clarity. One is constantly pulled outward. The other remains rooted. Through awareness, you begin to experience life directly instead of through mental commentary. Moments become richer. Decisions become cleaner. You are no longer trapped in constant evaluation of yourself and others. Attention returns to where power exists, the present moment. Awareness does not remove challenges. It changes your relationship with them. Problems are faced without panic. Emotions are felt without loss of control. Thought becomes a tool rather than a master. This is the quiet strength of a trained mind, built moment by moment through attention, patience, and repeated return to presence. Simplicity is not a lack of ambition. It is clarity of direction. When life becomes crowded with unnecessary commitments, distractions, and mental noise, energy is divided and progress slows. Many feel exhausted not because they do too much of what does not matter. Reducing complexity is an act of strength, not avoidance. It requires honesty about what truly serves growth and what merely fills space. The mind naturally resists simplicity because identity becomes attached to accumulation. Possessions, roles, and routines create a sense of importance. Letting go of them can feel like losing a part of yourself. But what is lost is not essential, it is weight. When excess is removed, movement becomes easier, focus sharpens, eyes becomes visible. Simplicity begins with commitments. Every obligation consumes attention, whether consciously or not. When commitments are chosen without intention, they become burdens. Learning to say no is not rejection, it is selection. It protects energy for what deserves it. This choice is uncomfortable at first because it goes against the desire to please and be accepted. Over time, it creates respect, both from others and from yourself. Environment shapes behavior more than willpower. A cluttered space produces a cluttered mind. Objects constantly compete for attention, even when unnoticed. Simplifying the environment is a form of mental training. Each item kept has a reason. Each tool has a place. Order outside supports order inside. This is not about perfection, but about removing friction from daily action. Digital noise is another source of complexity. Endless information, constant notifications, and unfiltered opinions fragment attention. The mind jumps rapidly without rest. Reducing input is not ignorance, it is discipline. Choosing when and what to consume restores control. Silence becomes possible again. Thought becomes deeper. Time feels slower because it is no longer broken into fragments. Simplicity also applies to goals. Chasing too many objectives at once creates illusion of progress without depth. Effort spreads thin, results remain shallow. Fewer goals pursued fully produce stronger outcomes. This requires patience. It means delaying gratification. It means trusting that depth creates momentum. When direction is clear, effort aligns naturally. Emotionally, simplicity means reducing internal conflict. Many carry unnecessary guilt, resentment, and expectation. These emotions drain energy long after events have passed. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means releasing attachment to mental replay. Awareness helps identify what can be released and what must be addressed. Each release creates space. Simplicity strengthens discipline. When routines are clear and minimal, consistency increases. There is less negotiation, fewer decisions, and less resistance. Actions become automatic. This frees mental energy for creativity and problem solving. Life feels lighter, not because challenges disappear, but because you are no longer carrying what does not belong to you. As simplicity deepens, priorities become obvious. You stop reacting to every opportunity and demand. You choose deliberately. Time gains value because it is no longer spent maintaining excess. Presence becomes easier because attention is not divided. You begin to move through life with intention instead of urgency. The power of simplicity is subtle. It does not announce itself. It works quietly, creating alignment between action and purpose. When the unnecessary falls away, what remains is strength, focus, and direction, not imposed from outside but discovered through the act of removing what was never essential. Inner fulfillment is not a sudden realization or a dramatic breakthrough. It is built through repeated alignment between intention and action. When actions contradict values, tension arises. This tension is often ignored or justified, but it never disappears. Over time, it weakens confidence and clouds judgment. Alignment removes this friction. When what you think, say, and do move in the same direction, energy flows without resistance. Many confuse fulfillment with excitement. Excitement is temporary and external. It rises with novelty and fades with familiarity. Fulfillment is steady. It does not depend on stimulation. It grows through meaning, contribution, and personal integrity. This steadiness allows you to continue even when results are slow and recognition is absent. Responsibility is central to inner fulfillment. Taking responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for everything. It means recognizing where your influence begins and ends. When responsibility is avoided, power is given away. Circumstances become excuses. People become obstacles. When responsibility is accepted, choices become visible. Even limited options contain direction. Self-respect is earned through consistent behavior. Promises kept to yourself matter more than promises kept to others. Each time you follow through, trust grows. Each time you break a commitment, that trust weakens. Inner fulfillment depends on this relationship with yourself. Without self-trust, success feels hollow because it rests on unstable ground. Fulfillment also grows through contribution, not contribution driven by approval, but by usefulness. When your effort benefits something beyond personal gain, perspective shifts, problems feel smaller, motivation becomes cleaner. You are less trapped in self-evaluation because attention moves outward in a healthy way. Contribution anchors fulfillment in action rather than thought. Patience is required because alignment does not produce immediate reward. The mind wants proof, it wants validation. Fulfillment develops quietly, often unnoticed at first. You begin to feel calmer, decisions feel clearer, reactions soften. These changes are subtle, but they compound. Over time, they form a stable inner state that does not collapse under pressure. Integrity is tested in small moments. No one is watching. The cost of compromise seems low. These moments shape fulfillment more than major decisions. Choosing what is right over what is easy strengthens identity. Each choice reinforces who you are becoming. Fulfillment is not something you find, it is something you build through these choices. Inner fulfillment also requires letting go of comparison. Measuring your path against others distorts perception. You begin to rush or doubt without cause. Each life unfolds under different conditions. When comparison is released, attention returns to progress instead of position. Growth becomes personal, not competitive. Fulfillment is sustained through acceptance. Acceptance of effort without guarantee. Acceptance of imperfection. Acceptance of setbacks without self-rejection. This acceptance is not resignation. It is realism. It allows you to move forward without internal resistance. Energy is no longer spent fighting what is already happening. As alignment deepens, fulfillment becomes independent of outcomes. Success is appreciated without attachment. Failure is faced without collapse. Identity remains intact because it is rooted in values rather than results. Life continues to demand effort, discipline, and patience, but the effort feels meaningful because it reflects who you choose to be, not what you are trying to obtain. Consistency is the silent force behind transformation. It lacks drama, intensity, and immediate reward, which is why it is often overlooked. Many wait for moments of inspiration to act, believing that motivation will carry them forward. Motivation is unstable. It rises and falls based on mood, energy, and circumstance. Consistency does not depend on any of these, it depends on decision. Small actions, repeated daily, shape identity more powerfully than occasional effort. Each repetition sends a signal about who you are becoming. When behavior is inconsistent, identity remains unclear. When behavior is consistent, identity solidifies. You no longer wonder whether you are disciplined, focused, or committed. Your actions answer for you. Consistency builds momentum quietly. Progress may be invisible at first, which tempts many to stop. The mind looks for evidence and grows impatient, but growth often happens beneath the surface before it becomes visible. Skills develop, capacity increases, resilience strengthens. These changes reveal themselves later, when pressure arrives and you respond differently than before. There will be days when effort feels heavy and results feel distant. These days matter most. Acting on these days reinforces reliability. It proves that action is not feel dependent on comfort. Each time you act despite resistance, discipline deepens. Over time, resistance weakens because the mind learns that negotiation is pointless. Consistency also simplifies life. When actions are habitual, decision-making decreases. There is less internal debate. You no longer ask whether to act. You act because it is what you do. This conserves mental energy. What once required willpower becomes routine. Many mistake flexibility for inconsistency. Adaptation is necessary, but direction must remain stable. The method can change. The commitment does not. Consistency does not mean rigidity. It means returning to the path repeatedly, even after deviation. Progress is not erased by interruption unless interruption becomes abandonment. Time amplifies consistency. What seems insignificant today compounds over weeks, months, and years. The gap between those who persist and those who stop widens slowly, then suddenly. This is why patience is essential. The reward for consistency is delayed, but it is reliable. Consistency builds trust, both internally and externally. Others learn that your word carries weight. More importantly, you learn that you can rely on yourself. This self-reliance reduces anxiety. You stop questioning whether you will show up. You know that you will, because you always have. Consistency is also an act of respect for the process. It acknowledges that mastery is gradual. There are no shortcuts. Each repetition refines understanding. Each return strengthens foundation. Over time, effort becomes refined rather than forced. The challenge of consistency is boredom. Repetition lacks novelty. The mind seeks stimulation and variety. Discipline keeps you grounded when excitement fades. It teaches you to value progress over entertainment. Through this, depth is achieved. Consistency does not demand perfection. Missed days will happen. Mistakes will occur. What matters is the return. Each return reinforces commitment. Each return strengthens identity. Over time, the act of returning becomes automatic. Transformation is not the result of intensity, talent, or luck. It is the result of sustained effort applied in one direction. Consistency ensures that direction is maintained regardless of emotion, distraction, or doubt.